welcome to another segment of my show. I don't have a name for my show, so I just want to say to my show. And today we are going to talk about obtaining tertiary education at an adult age. We want to hear about, the challenges that people face. What was life like, being in university at an adult age? And it could be a challenge because, and then it could also be a turnoff because you might find some people saying, oh, that's for young people. I'm not going to go to college. That's young people's. But we'll see today that, and even now, we've seen that many adults are going to college. They're not, giving up on life. And I think that's the key thing we need to know, that we shouldn't restrict our age to anything. She served as a member of parliament for the Bight constituency from 2003 until 2009. She was also a member of the cabinet, serving as the Minister of Health and Social Services. And in 2016, she decided to go to university to become a lawyer. And she was in the mid-50s, if you don't mind me talking her age. Of course, if you see her, you wouldn't think that she's in the mid-50s. You'd think that she's 30-something. But really, she's 60 years old. And she has completed her LLB, and we want to talk about with her to encourage you who are watching this, thinking you're too old to go to college. So, Honorable Delancy, thank you for giving me this opportunity to have this conversation with you.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm just laughing how you're describing me.
It's a good description, isn't it?
Yes, it is, because before I was among the crew that would always say two things you never ask a woman: her age and her weight. I think I'm over that now.
That's good. That is good. Well, it's such a great, pleasure to have you. I always wanted to do a show on this topic about adults that decided to go to college, and I was thinking, who could I ask?
Oh.
We have quite a few, persons in the Turks and Caicos Islands who did go to college at an adult age. But because of my relationship with you, a very good friend of mine, and of course my wife as well, I decided to ask you to be on the show, and I appreciate you, and I thank you for agreeing to come on the show to talk about it. So you started your tertiary level education in 2016, am I correct?
Yes, I did. And I must say that I always wanted to study law.
Really? From high school?
Yes, it's actually high school. And I'll tell you what happened. I grew up in Grand Bahama, a place called Sea Grape. And during the time of growing up, Sea Grape was not looked at as a good community. I don't know if it was because only Turks Islanders live there, or
stigma.
It's a stigma attached. And then before you know it, Sea Grape was referred to as Bohog City.
What?
Yeah, anyone growing up in 8 Mile Rock and lived in Sea Grape, you would know they always referred to Sea Grape as Bohog City.
That's very derogatory.
First stigma, okay. Then, also it was as if there was nothing good could come out of Sea Grape. And I'm not sure where it came from, but I always knew somewhere deep down inside I would show them that something good can come out of Sea Grape.
That's right.
And I remember, I don't want to call names, but there was this young man. I remember his mom had passed, and his dad, raising boys and girls, his dad wasn't handling it very well. And I remember he started just, playing the blocks, staying away from school and all of that. And I remember one weekend, we had heard of this murder. And then we heard later on that his name was mentioned as a suspect. And I remember thinking, well, I don't think he would do that because of the person that I know growing up, in the community. And I remember later on, it happened that there was a trial and everything, and he was convicted and sentenced to death and all of this. And back then, they used to hang people. And I thought, I don't know why, but in the back of my head, it was like, they haven't done a good job. They haven't really investigated. They just picked him because he's from Sea Grape. You know, that was in my head.
Right.
And then for the longest time, nothing had happened. He was just sitting in prison. And one of the relatives of the deceased worked in media. They worked for one of the leading local newspaper. And it was like he had a campaign going on that he must be hanged for, you know, killing his relative and all of that. And he sat in prison for quite some time. And then eventually the news came that it was him and another young man that was going to be hanged on this particular day. And I remember some cousins of mine went to the prison in Nassau, and they were praying and staying all night trying to, you know, to get the judge to change his mind. And it didn't happen, and, you know, they did hang both of them.
Oh.
And I was so angry on that day.
Because you felt he was innocent.
I felt he was innocent. I felt they didn't even do a proper investigation. Because there was a time when the police was always in secret picking up one of the young boys. You know, it was like that stigma was the reason that someone should always be accused of a crime, you know, from the community. And I remember thinking, but why would they, after all this time, why would they now hang him? And then I realized when he was first arrested and charged, he was underage. So he stayed in prison until he'd reached that age. And that's when they did it. I was so angry. I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a criminal barrister, you know, and I'm going to clear his name and I'll clear my community, you know. I was just like, and I thought, Mommy, please move on to Sea Grape. Please move on to Sea Grape. Because the longer you stay in Sea Grape, the longer I'm going to wear the stigma, you know, and I won't be looked at as anybody. Please move on to Sea Grape. Eventually, we moved into Freeport. I was just so relieved, because, again, the stigma in the community, it was just that bad.
That's amazing.
You know, and after moving into Freeport, things really changed, Things really changed, but that's when it all started.
Okay. And that was many years ago,
That's
though.
many years ago. And even when I came to Turks and Caicos, it was still there, and I thought, I'm going to go to Jamaica. But then after, you know, things changed, and I decided, I was in love and all of that. And, you know, became a mommy and a single parent and all of that. So other things just
they became your priority.
Yes,
your children became your priority.
Exactly. And so then I kept thinking, one day, when my baby son, when he walked the floor for high school, on that day when he graduates, I'm going to have the freedom. I'm going to have the freedom now to go to law school.
Right.
Didn't quite happen like that. So it still took another 4 years before I went. And I'm glad I went. There have been highs and lows. Because, you know, when you think about leaving home, you think about the safety of home and family and small community where you can call on this person and you can call on that person. And you're going to the UK where you're like a little fish in a really big sea, But it turns out that sometimes that could be a good thing.
Yeah.
Because when you're alone like that, you know, you're more focused. You're much more focused on what you came to do. And that happened to me in the beginning because my mind was all set. I've come to the UK for 3 years. I'm going to get my degree, get qualified, come back to Turks and Caicos Islands, jump in immigration, fix half of these problems that people are just afraid to touch, you know, and I'm going to talk about subjects and topics that's taboo. You know, I had this whole plan in my head. And then, of course, COVID came.
I know, right?
Oh my
COVID
gosh.
messed up a lot of our lives.
COVID just threw everything out of the window. So now it's like I'm always almost starting over, trying to crawl back up.
You'll get there. You'll
I
get there.
I know I will get there because it's still dancing in my head. But it's been a good experience,
Yeah.
I must admit. Like I said, there were highs and lows
Yeah.
because. Well, you already said it, so I can say it too. But I hadn't been in face-to-face learning in like 32, almost 33 years. So going there, you're almost out of your depth there. And like the kind of help you would get in primary school or high school, it's not there at uni level.
Independent.
Oh, no, it's not there. It's all every man for himself. Unless you can manage to get a group together, like a study group, where you can sit with each other and you test each other like that. In the beginning, I didn't have that because my class was made up of all mature persons. They all had families.
Oh, okay.
They were married and they had children and all of that. And another thing, I was like the oldest in the class,
Oh, really?
Well, including the lecturers.
You're older than lecturers. Okay.
So that was another thing. I was like,
Were they intimidated by you, or were you intimidated by them?
I think I was intimidated by them.
Oh.
Because
Why?
they had what I wanted.
Oh, I see.
So you've got to, there's a line, so you've got to walk that line very, very carefully. Because even though you're just returning to adult learning and all of this, right? They've been teaching so long.
Right.
They expect certain things from you. And us coming in as mature adults, a lot of us didn't do A-level law. So there's another section there that we didn't have. So when
So the
you would ask
prerequisite.
we'd ask a question, for example, and they were like, send an email. I'm like, I want to know now because I need this because when I go home to study tonight, I'd be able to understand exactly what what it is I'm studying and what you expect me to write in an assessment. And they didn't have time for that.
They expect you to know
They
that
expect
already?
you to know already.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's interesting.
Lord, did I make a mistake? Did I make a mistake? Did I uproot myself? I had a really good little business going on. I've got my house. I really don't need much now. Did I
children
give
are
up
grown.
all of that to come here to fail? I mean, what would I do? Stop going to uni and just what? Sit down in the house? Go shopping? I mean, what do I do at this point? And I remember this lecturer, he and I got in it a good couple of times. And he would say, you're acting like you're remedial or something. And I thought, Karen, don't lose it. Don't lose it, just keep calm. Keep calm, he's had a rough day. Just keep calm, keep calm. He walked and he came back. He said, I'm talking to you. I didn't answer.
Wow.
He walked from the front and came and stood in front of me. I just didn't look up at first. He stayed there and I looked at him. I said, my name is Karen. He said, all right, Miss Karen. I said, yes. He said, you got a question. I said, I did an hour ago, but you've already answered it. He looked at me. I said, you've answered it? Yes. Yes, you've answered it. So everybody in the class started laughing and laughing and laughing at this time. So he said, do, share with us. Share with us. And I said, well, I remember reading Desperado, and Desperado had said, even the dumb and the ignorant, they too had their story.
Everybody has a story.
Exactly. And he was just like, he wanted to say something, but he couldn't say something back to me, Because at the time, the whole class is watching to see what's going to happen between us. Eventually, he just walked to his desk, turned his computer on, he started typing away and typing and typing and typing. And that was that. That was that. After everybody in the class was saying, you know what? You handled that pretty good. I said, well, I kind of live a long time, so I think I have a little understanding of what,
Experience.
So,
Experience matters.
it does, But thank God, the next semester we got a really good lecturer, and I must say he helped me a whole lot.
Good.
Any question I had for him, he would help me to answer it, and he'd answer it in different ways so that I would get the understanding. Because I said to him, I said, "Sir, I don't mean to interrupt you. I see you're busy, but I want to say something to you. I have not been in face-to-face learning over 30-something years." I said, "Probably before you were born." I said, and I'm trying to retrain my brain to think differently because I've had life experiences. So I understand something about something.
Yeah.
But in law, what you think you understand is not the true understanding of it. For instance, like when we learned that in a case where someone has died, whether it's a car accident or whether someone was actually shot, they don't die from that particular thing. They die as a result of
something else.
You understand? Of something else, right? Even though, for instance, it'd be a car accident, they didn't die because of the car accident, you know. They died as a result of what happened to them during the accident. So we had to then, next thing, what we did, I had to also understand that circumstantial evidence in my mind, right? It's not facts. For instance, he's standing up there and he went out that door and the door closed behind him. And there's someone else out there, and you would see someone to the door, and you would turn around and say, "Why you closed the door on him?" He didn't, you know. He might have closed the door behind him, but because you saw the other person standing there, you assume right away
that he thought the person, that he knew the person.
That you closed that, yeah.
I got you.
Yes, so, you know, we have these things already fixed in our mind.
Right.
But it's not really that way.
Interesting.
So I went down that road with him, and he was able to recommend other law cases to me that I could read to get a better understanding. And then he recommended too that I attend some short courses to help me to better understand the law. And those courses were just collecting evidence. And reviewing the evidence, like what a judge would say in this particular case, as opposed to another case. And then he helped me to understand what is precedence. Like if a judge make a decision, right? Everyone follows that same decision. They cannot go outside, eh?
Got it.
So I finally began to understand differently.
Right.
And I was able to then think differently. In class, I could then express myself as well. And so that did really good. I remember the very first assessment after I got 62%, and I was over the moon. I was over the moon because I had highest in the class. So I was like, yes. So everybody's like, you got time on your hands. You should get higher. You should be.
You know, I'm glad you bring it up by thinking, and that's an important thing in college. You have to think, because when I was in high school, we regurgitated a lot. We memorized, and we just, and the teacher, well, in Turks and Caicos, that's how we did. I don't know about other countries. You just memorize.
Yes.
And then the question come on the test, and you just respond based on your memory.
Yes.
You don't even know why you responding what you respond. But when I went to college, I realized you have to think. Because I failed my first test in college, which was economics.
Okay.
And I memorized because that's all I was used to.
That was the problem.
And when the professor asked these questions, I answered all the questions because I knew that these were the answers that I thought. And I failed. And I thought I was losing my mind. I said, oh my God, I'm on a scholarship. I'm going to lose my scholarship. And then, you know, three of us, two ladies one from Singapore, Malaysia, and one from South Africa. We were international students, so we knew each other really well. We met the professor, and he went over each question with us. And when he went over those questions, we was able to answer those questions within our minds, because they also used to memorize it.
Yes.
It's totally different. It allows you to apply what you learn. And that's one thing I appreciate college for. It's not about memorizing, regurgitating. And I think that's what we need to do in our high schools.
Yes.
We need to change the way, I don't know if they do it now, but we need to change the way we give exams. We need to not give exams based exactly on what you study.
Yes,
Make
yes.
people think.
Yes, yes,
Apply
yes.
what you
Critically
learn.
analyze. Yeah,
So
yes.
I mean, that's a very good point. Now you
Yes.
mentioned your classes are a lot of mature students.
Yes.
I was thinking that maybe you had teenagers, and I mean, people who just graduated from
No.
the A-level program.
No, we were all mature students.
Well, that's a good thing in a way, because when I went to college, all of us were, high school
Right,
graduates.
right.
There's only one adult person I saw, and I was surprised actually, because I was thinking, what is she doing here in college?
Yeah.
She's an old person.
Yeah.
Because everybody were young, and so it is good too that you were surrounded by mature people, even though you say you were the oldest. But being the oldest, you still felt out of place. Did you feel out of place, even though they were mature students, yet you were older?
No, I didn't,
You didn't feel out of place?
No, because again, they were in their 40s. For example,
Okay.
they were in their 40s. There was one girl, I think, that was like 38 years old, like that. But no, I didn't feel out of place at all. I was just, every now and then when we have a lecturer that came, and I could tell, oh my God, he's under 40. That sort of,
Okay.
And so I could tell. And then they're looking at the class, looking at the class. And then the eyes stop. So after that, I started wearing a lot of headbands to hide the gray. I wore a lot of headbands, because people don't judge you based on the gray hair you
I know.
have. Yeah.
Trust me, I know.
So I started wearing headbands to disguise it. Because after a while, the mascara brush wasn't doing it. So I just,
I understand. I understand where you're
and
coming
then
from.
after that, I started wearing like little tube tops with a jacket over it and jeans. So even that disguise.
Oh, really? Okay.
Not even
trying to look
disgusting.
20-something.
Why not?
I see. So the challenge of leaving your home, you had this, you had your home, you had a business growing, that was, and then giving it up to go to college, what other challenges you faced as an adult going to university?
Remembering.
Ah.
I'll tell you honestly, remembering. Because
Really?
you had all of these cases that you were reading, right? And it wasn't, again, because it was all new, it was difficult to remember. You would remember maybe part of the name, but you couldn't really remember the entire case. A bits and piece here, bits and piece there, even though you would have studied and studied and studied.
And you think it's because of your age you had that issue?
I don't think it was the age factor. I think it was just the fact that I was not used to studying like that.
So it's the gap that you had in education. Because
Yes.
for 33 years you say you
Yes.
haven't
Yes.
done this thing.
Yes, I think that was it.
So getting used to
Oh yes.
studying and remembering what you studied.
What you studied, because they required us to study for 40 hours a week, right? 40 hours a week. And there were times
And that's
when
minimum probably.
Yes, yes. And when I first went there, my biggest issue was the time difference.
Oh yes.
Remember?
Got to get used to that.
That time difference. So I would get to class on time, but my body was like it was still asleep. And
Well, that's a challenge in itself.
that's a challenge in itself. And then after, for a while, I used to get lost all the time until eventually I could find home. Literally get lost because the way I wasn't used to catching trains and buses plus trains. So half of the time I'd end up taking a different train until I realized always take the Richmond train. But if you're going home, make sure you're on the left-hand side. If you're coming, you're on the right-hand side. So going home is this way, and coming to uni is this way. So I always remember, catch the Richmond train. So once I saw that train, I was able then to find my way home. Took a few weeks.
I understand.
And then I found my way home. And after finding my way home, on the weekend, I said, you know what? Rather than just staying home and reading, I'm going to start going out and walking around and get to know the neighborhood. Perhaps even that will help me even better. And I did, and I found a nice library. So I started going to the library and spending time at the library, which further helped me. Rather than just staying home and reading to myself, I went to the library. From the library, I started going to the park that was next to the library. So then I found other people who were also studying, and some were studying law, some were studying healthcare management, some was studying architecture and on like that. So meeting them and talking all the time to them has helped. We started discussing our cases in law and hearing their understanding and me sharing what I understand actually helped me even more.
Yeah.
So that was a big leap all of a sudden, because I went from struggling to understand to suddenly understanding.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think one of the key things you just alluded is that you can find a group of people, because that helps a lot. Because you find yourself when you go in the room, you may end up falling asleep.
Yeah.
And you're not motivated to study.
Yes.
But when you find people you can study with, it helps a lot.
It really does.
So that's a good point.
Yes.
And it's a challenge for you because you didn't live on campus. Like me, I was young when I was 16 when I went to college. And so I live on campus. And so I was surrounded by college students. We went to the library together, we studied together. But being an adult, you were not on campus. And you're not, other than your goal of becoming a lawyer.
Yes.
You didn't have all those things to motivate you.
Yeah, so that was, but again, as time went on, it got easier and easier.
Right.
But I would say to anyone planning to leave the Turks and Caicos to go to the UK to study, I would say plan it. First of all, find the uni that you want to attend. Look at several unis. Look at what they require. Look at what they're offering to see if there's enough help. Like, there's always student support. But student support sometimes is just that, student support. The support you're looking for to help in your studies and everything, that's not there. They're not there for that. They are there for other things, like making sure your school fees are paid, making sure you can get online and everything. There's no student support person even that you can go and talk to and say, I'm struggling here, or can you help me with this or whatever. It's not set up like that.
That's some good points. So you need to see what all benefits and services that they offer before you make that decision.
Exactly. And make sure, yes, it's the right one for you. And also to think about the area you're going to live in. That's also important.
True.
Because if you live in a strictly business area, you're not going to find people to help you like you think. I don't care how smart you are, everyone needs a sounding board, so to speak. So,
I agree.
You always need someone to listen and tell you whether or not you make sense.
Yeah, and those business people are probably busy at work.
They're too busy, and London is a busy place anyway. Everybody's walking around with the headphones in, and they can't hear you, and when you stop them, they look at you like, what you want, kind of thing. So,
when did you complete your LLB?
February of 2020.
So, did you try going into the job market? I mean, and if you did, were there any challenges being an adult looking for a job?
From I hit London, I was searching for a job. You have to understand, too, that London is such a competitive city.
It is.
Of people. I mean, really competitive. For instance, when I went to get my eyes checked, I got some new glasses. And the young man that was helping me, he was already a lawyer. Here, he had his LPC, right? But he couldn't find a job. So he had to support himself. So he took a job working at Vision Express, fitting glasses. Can you imagine? And then he said to me, oh, I'm just one of many. He said, there are young doctors that haven't found work as yet. So I couldn't understand. I was looking at him funny. And he said, okay. He said, every year they give out these contracts, right? Because even after you would have gotten your qualifications, you have to have this training contract. They give out 3,000 training contracts per year, and they have about 7,000 applicants.
Wow.
So you see how tight it is? And
Very
then
competitive. You have to be very,
yes,
I
that
mean,
extra.
outstanding, or
Yes.
you know, because it's competitive. You're competing against a lot of people,
A lot, and really, really smart people at that.
and you
very,
probably
very
have
smart.
to go to one of those Ivy League schools.
Yeah, that. It helps. It helps because that'll be a good connection for you.
But you did it.
see?
You made it.
I
you made
did.
it.
Yes, I
You
did. I
successfully
did.
completed your LLB.
Yes.
You returned to the Turks and Caicos Islands. What are you planning on doing next?
Well, right now I'm studying my master's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Studying my master's.
In
and
law?
then no, it's not in law. It's in HR management.
Okay.
Because again, when I was going off to law school, I thought about studying an area of law that can benefit the Turks and Caicos Islands. And that's why I chose employment law. You see. So now I'm studying HR management. Right. So after that, then it's the LPC. But I will finish with the master's in May. So in between there, I'm gonna study a course in mediation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So after you've completed this education journey,
Yes.
what would you be doing? Now you're going to go and fix the immigration issues we have in Turks and Caicos? Is that the plan?
I'm certainly gonna try. Education and special needs. I'm certainly gonna try. Right.
Based on what you experienced while you were in the UK, and those persons watching this who want to go and study, not necessarily in the UK, or just an adult
Yes.
who wants to, study, get their degree. I know you talk about making sure, check the university, that they have the services you need, make sure the area you live in is conducive to that. What other advice would you give to individuals who are contemplating, giving up their full-time job, giving up their, comfort zone to go and get a degree? What advice do you give them?
Make sure it's really what you want to do. That's the
Okay.
first thing. Make sure it's really what you want to do. Sometimes we set out to study a particular field, and it's not really the one for us. Sometimes we
Even though you're an adult.
even though you're an adult,
You
I'm
should-
telling you, you have to. Sometimes you may think, okay, you know what? I think I really want to be a pharmacist. And then halfway along the line, you realize, oh no, I don't really want to do this. I want to do something else. And that has happened to a lot of students. Because I will tell you, my intake of 21 students, my intake dwindled down to 1. And in 2020, I was the only student to complete the law program.
Really?
Everyone else just went by the wayside except for one person that died due to COVID.
Really?
Yes.
Why that happened? Did they not do it? It's not what they. Is it because that's not what they wanted, or they just they had so many other things to do?
It's probably a combination of all kinds of things because again, law.
Well, I'm glad you finished
Law
yours.
is not law. Law is not an easy subject, It may sound easy. It may sound
It's complicated.
glamorous. It's not that. It's very complicated, and it's a lot of reading. You have to really enjoy reading. You have to. I'm telling you, because reading for 40 hours a week, study, it's not an easy thing. That's like going to work. And while you're studying for these 40 hours, you have to remember what you've studied.
Yeah.
Because there are times when you have discussions in class. And I've heard people who simply couldn't hold the argument. And they just got upset and walked out.
They gave up.
You understand?
Interesting. Now with COVID, we're seeing that the mode of learning has changed. A lot of universities have now, moved to online.
Yes.
And even though we've seen an improvement in terms of COVID in some places, some universities are still using online.
Yes.
Would you
Yes.
recommend that to persons rather than, just leaving their home, their comfort zone, and they're leaving their job and going face to face? Would you recommend that they just do online classes?
It all depends on the person. Honestly, it depends on the person. When I went, I felt I had to go. I didn't feel that coming back into education, I didn't feel that I could do it just by studying online. I felt I needed to have that presence of people speaking, discussing, sharing, and all of that. Whereas online, you're reading, and yes, you can join your class online for your discussions, your lessons rather. It's not that simple because sometimes you want to ask a question, but there are others asking their questions. So at the end of the day, your question don't get answered. But if you are face to face, chances are it can get answered.
That's a very good point you made. I mean, personally, I prefer face-to-face as well. I don't like the online, I mean, especially if you just starting off to learn.
Yes.
Like my kids, elementary school, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was effective. For some people who can, learn easily, it may be okay. But it's not the same thing. That face-to-face classroom, to me, even though the online may be cheaper and there's some places where you could do it at your own pace, it's still not the same thing.
No.
And like you said, when you want to ask a question, you might get an answer right away face-to-face.
Yes.
So that's a very good point you made.
Yes, because then, and the thing about it too, when that's answered right then and there, it helps you to understand that, okay, I was on the right track. I am thinking, correctly. And so all of those things help you. It not only motivates you, but all of a sudden you realize, I'm just as smart as them.
That's it. That's it.
That's been my journey. And the only time, I must admit, the one time that I won't even say struggle, the difficulty I had was in doing my dissertation, because at the last minute, again, COVID was coming on and all of that. My supervisor, she just vanished. I would send her my draft and ask for feedback, and it just wasn't coming. It wasn't coming until one time I wrote the school a really not nice letter, and I said to them, they will have to reimburse me for this whole year. And then after that, I got
a response.
I got a response. But even when they did send the response to me, it was still back to the same lady. And after a while, I said, you know what? I have to write the vice president, because this is not good enough. This is my final year. This here gives will give me either a third class, second class, 2-1 or whatever. I need a quality degree. So if you already have my money, give me the service. And I sent.
That's good. You stood up.
I sent an epistle. Right. So
that's good. You stood up to them.
At the very, very end, they sent me somebody, a really nice gentleman and everything, but it was at the tail end. And so the time was running up, and then they were, he was saying to me, why don't you write and ask for mitigation circumstances, whatever. And I'm like, no, because they're going to penalize me at least 10-20%. And you've just come along, you're struggling just like me because you don't understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So I said, no. Tell you what, correct my grammar. Just make sure this is what it looks like, what it should be, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh, okay. And when he said that, I was like, so I'm dictating to him rather than the other way around. I thought, okay, let's just go with this. Let's go with this.
You had a purpose to fulfill, and let's get that done.
And it had to get done, but that was the one thing in the end that I fell with them for. Yeah. And like I said, I wrote them an epistle. Yeah. I think they still have that letter because it went to the vice president. It went to the what was she now? The person in charge of the law program. It went to the lecturer. It just went everywhere. Yeah. I sent it to everybody because I was just so angry with them in the end.
Because I remember one time in one of our conversations, I don't remember what it was about, but to me, not to me. I mean, you were giving up. It's like you
Yes.
had given up and you want to return to Turks and Caicos.
Yes.
And I remember saying, Karen, man, finish that thing. Don't. You can't give up. I remember. I don't know what it is. What do you remember? What it was?
It was a dissertation.
Was it the dissertation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
because I was not getting a response at all.
Right.
You know, I was trying and trying, and again, at the end of the day, 60% of your marks come from a dissertation,
Oh wow.
and that's why I was so angry.
Yeah.
You know, but
Well, anyway, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. It's been a lovely, lovely conversation. I don't know if you have anything you want to add. You have anything to close with, or
it's never too late.
it's never too late.
Never too late.
I like it. I like it. Thank you again for watching this segment of my show on the YouTube channel. Please remember to subscribe, and thank you, Honorable Karen, for this opportunity.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed being with all of you.